morning, it's Jules. We've got a homestead in Alberta, Canada, and today I wanted to teach you guys a little bit about owning livestock guardian dogs for your flocks, whether or not you have goats, sheep, cows, whatever you have. You can own livestock guardian dogs to keep them safe. And there's many breeds that you can get. It's important to do research about making sure you get the right breed for your climate. So we live in Alberta, Canada. It gets pretty cold and it gets pretty hot. So one of the dogs that you'll see often in Canada is a Maremma Sheepdog. They're very closely related to a Great Pyrenees. And in fact, most of the time when people see our dogs, Huck and Hascap, online, they do think that they are Great Pyrenees dogs. Maremmas are a little bit smaller than a Great Pyrenees. Great Pyrenees tend to be about 120 pounds and Maremmas tend to be around 100 pounds. So they're a bit smaller. They have slightly different temperaments to the Great Pyrenees. Great Pyrenees are super known. Hi there, Hassie. Great Pyrenees are really known for wandering around. They like to expand their boundaries. So if you don't do really strict training with them as puppies and teach them what their boundary is, where they're allowed to go, where they're not allowed to go, Great Pyrenees tend to wander and expand their boundary. And the problem with that is they can get onto other people's properties and think that they're protecting it, which is a problem for other farmers nearby who have their own livestock and it's their own property. And when they come outside onto their own land and somebody else's Great Pyrenees is on their land, you can have issues because those Great Pyrenees, they have such strong instincts to guard, and they don't realize that where they are isn't their property, so they will guard against farmers on their own property. So one of the things that we really liked about Maremma Sheepdogs is that they don't have that same tendency to wander and expand their boundary. They like to stay a lot closer to the flock that they're protecting. So if you're not familiar with our dogs, this is Huckleberry. This is Hascap. We have a boy and a girl. We have 2 Maremma Sheepdogs protecting our herd of goats. We also have a third dog. Her name is Hibiscus. She's right there. Now, she's not actually a guardian dog. She is a mix of herding breeds, but she works together with our dogs and she keeps our property safe. So our dogs, Huck and Hascap, they're always in the fenced in area where our goats are kept. So they have about 5 acres to roam around here. Hascap, she can actually hop our 4-foot fencing. So she's in and out whenever she wants to be, and she protects the rest of our property as well. If you want to get livestock guardian dogs to protect your animals, you do want to have at least 2 of them. How cute the cutie. You do want to have at least 2 of them. They work in teams. That's how they work best. It can be lonely for dogs if they're the only dog with a herd of animals that aren't dogs. So it's nice to have 2 of them. A lot of people recommend to have 3 of them, and they will work in teams if there is a threat, if there's coyotes, cougars, wolves. Oftentimes what you'll see is one dog will stay right there with... Oftentimes you'll see one dog staying right there with the herd of animals while another dog scouts closer to where they're hearing the threat. And of course, if ever there came an altercation where your dogs were fighting off predatory animals, you would want them to be fighting in a team. You don't want them to be fighting solo. A lot of people do find concern when they see that our dogs are outside year round. They always have access into the barn, so there's always shelter. And we have more shelters scattered around our property that they can always access. If there's bad weather, like lots of rain, or lots of wind, they normally shelter themselves inside the barn. But when it gets really cold and even when it's snowing, you still see our dogs outside. They choose to be outside. They like that cold weather. They have 2 fur coats. They have an undercoat and a top coat, and that keeps them protected from the wet and the cold. They actually do a lot better faring in the winter than they do in the summer. The summer gets really hot for them, so they do shed out their fur coats. It still gets hot for them, and you can always see them looking for shade or digging into the ground and looking for cool dirt to lie in. When you have livestock guardian dogs, you want to do some training with them when they're puppies. Now, hopefully when you buy a livestock guardian dog, if you get them from a reputable breeder, then you know that they're coming from a long lineage of being livestock guardian dogs. They have that instinct to guard really deep inside of them. And then, so you don't need to do training to teach them how to guard. They know how to guard. What you want to do when they're puppies is monitor them really closely, especially for the first several months that they're puppies, but at least until they're a year old, even into being 2 years old. You want to monitor them and make sure that you're correcting bad behavior. So you don't want them to be chasing your herd or nipping at them. But those are the problems that we had with Huck. He, as a puppy, of course, wanted to play, and he was running around after them, chasing them. They didn't like that. So we had to just monitor him, correct those behaviors, tell him no. The dogs are playing right now. That's totally okay. I think a lot of people, when they hear working dogs, think that when they're on the job, they're working. So you might be familiar with seeing police dogs that have a vest on, and when they're wearing the vest, they're working. When they take the vest off, that's when they're allowed to play. So these working dogs, because they're with the herd 24/7, they don't have anything like a vest or a collar that we put on them when they're working and take off when they're off. They're always working, but they don't know that they're working. They don't know that when they're out in the paddock and with their goats that they're on the job. They just have that instinct so deep inside them that we never have to tell them you're on or you're off. And whenever they want, they can play with each other or wander around a little bit, but they're always listening. They're always paying attention to what's happening around them. So right now, even though they're playing with each other, if a dog or a coyote did bark off the ways, they would stop immediately, pay attention to that, probably bark back to say, don't come over here, and just be on alert for whatever that sound was. You guys are so cute. You guys are so cute. So that's what I can tell you right now about having livestock guardian dogs. If you're interested in getting into livestock guardian dogs, do some research about breeds. A great way to do research is to get onto local groups around you. So if that's Facebook groups or Reddit groups, get onto groups around you and see what other people have, see and ask how they handle your climate, your temperatures. That's a great way to learn what works well for where you are. Do some research about the different breeds, what their different temperaments are, what they're better at and worse at handling, and then you'll find the right breed for you. I feel like almost no matter what breed you end up getting, you'll love them no matter what, and you'll kind of want to stick with them. And if you have any questions at all about livestock guardian dogs, please feel free to ask them. I'd love to answer some questions, or a lot of times people ask questions that I don't have the answers to, and then I have to do some research to figure out how to answer them best and give them the right information, and then I get to learn a little bit more. Everyone gets to learn a little bit more in the comments. So please feel free to ask questions so that I can hopefully get you a really good answer. And if you haven't checked out any of our other videos, we do have another video, our first video that introduces our channel. You can watch that. And then we have some shorts up too. That's kind of like our day-to-day things that happen around the farm. Thanks, guys. See you next time.